Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why we just got more proof Bill Belichick cost the Patriots the Super Bowl.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why this passive-aggressive Aaron Rodgers needling needs to stop. Speak for yourself starts now.
Awesome show. I get to blast Bill Belichick. That's always good. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. Hello and welcome. We're joined today by Fox NFL analyst Greg Jennings and Fox Sports Radio host Doug Gottlieb. Let's start in Tennessee, where the Titans just handed Malcolm Butler a contract worth $61 million over 5 years, just a few weeks after Bill Belichick benched Butler for the entire Super Bowl, saying he didn't give the team the best chance to win. Obviously, the Titans' new coach, Belichick disciple Mike Vrabel, thinks Butler can help his team win. Cowherd, is this still proof Belichick botched the Super Bowl?
No, it's proof Tennessee overpays for players. Generic and brand names, mostly the same product, but generally people will pay more for a brand name. New England players come out of that system and they're brand names. If Dion Lewis played for Jacksonville, would you pay him that money? If Malcolm Butler played for Arizona, would you pay him that money? Players leave New England in that system, and they're overvalued. They become brands in the NFL's best system. And Tennessee has a history, a lot of losing teams do, of trying to grab a little bit of the New England magic, and they usually get smoked.
Vrabel, from the Belichick tree.
How do we know he's a good coach?
He's from the Belichick tree.
Right.
Robinson, the front office guy, is from the New England tree. You can't tell me all these people don't know anything about Malcolm Butler and what led to the guy playing 97% of the snaps leading up to the Super Bowl, and then he doesn't play at all. You can't tell. Vrabel's not an idiot. Robinson, the front office guy, not an idiot. Bill Belichick is a hell of a coach, the best we've ever seen in football. He clearly made a mistake, and something personal is at work here with Malcolm Butler. This is more than any of the Spygate, Deflategate, whatever they want to say about Belichick, the Tuck rule, none of that matters. What he did to Malcolm Butler, to me, that's the stain on him. It's not a big stain, but it's a stain on Belichick, the greatest coach we've seen in football.
No. For me, this is no knock on Belichick. You can't, it's hard for me. And again, I'm a player, former player, and I always would question coaching, especially when I didn't outright agree. And the decision that Belichick has or had to bench Malcolm Butler in that Super Bowl game, we will never quite know the fullness of it, but I truly believe that there was something that he was trying to do. He's a chess player, and he's a thinker. He may have been trying to disengage the interest for teams wanting Malcolm Butler so that they could retain him at a lower rate. And that may have backfired.
Super Bowl.
That may have backfired, but I just don't, I can't question Belichick when the decisions that he's always made, it's typically been right. He's made them right. And he's been successful at doing it.
Unless he's Jesus, he's not infallible.
I'm not saying he's infallible.
Nobody's saying he's infallible. Can't both of these things be true? Can't he have made what you would consider in the short term a mistake, but in the long term be the reason that they go to 8 Super Bowls? I mean, that's really what it is. Like, we can question the methods. We can question why he traded away Jamie Collins last year when they had no pass rush. But we can't question the fact that he keeps finding a way to get guys that buy in at a lower rate than they should and is successful.
Okay, they lost Nate Solder, Dion Lewis, Danny Amendola, and Malcolm Butler in the last 24 hours. I could make the argument he's 4th most valuable. He's not Nate Solder. There's no way he's as valuable as Dion Lewis.
You guys are changing the conversation, though. It's like, Michael Jackson made a mediocre album or two, and he's still the greatest. Right. Prince, not every song was perfect. Right. And so, again, you guys act like Bill Belichick's perfect. In my opinion, I've heard from Tom Brady on this. He didn't agree with the decision. I've heard from Dante Hightower, didn't agree with the decision. Mike Vrabel just showed me he disagreed with the decision. The Detroit Lions and Matt Patricia, they were interested in Malcolm Butler. They didn't agree with the decision. Bill Belichick did something stupid and cost his team the damn Super Bowl.
Oh, hold on now. They missed a field goal, which they never do.
They gave up 41 points.
They missed an extra point. They did. They did. And Tom Brady still had
Nick Foles looked like Rodgers Staubach and Bart Starr rolled together.
I'm not disputing that they would have been a better team athletically and talent-wise and matchup-wise with Malcolm Butler. But again, whatever he's done, and the reason we haven't heard anything about it is because they were going to bury whatever he did leading up to that Super Bowl so that he could sign a contract elsewhere. They don't want to crush his ability to make money elsewhere. They think he's a good player. They took him from nothing, created him as something. Hold on.
You were an athlete, Doug. Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
If you had played 97% of the minutes on Oklahoma State's run to the Final Four in the championship game and you got sat, and you had played 97...
No, it's not different. We actually saw it. This is a crazy thing that I know this. In the women's Final Four last year, where I think it was like Mississippi State, where their best player didn't play in the fourth quarter at all. And there was something that went on. My point is this. There is not a New England Patriots.
What happened in the first 3 quarters?
Right.
Malcolm Butler didn't get a snap, man.
I understand. But my point is that whatever he did made Bill Belichick say, you know what, I'm going to make an example of him. And the rest of the way, as long as I'm going to coach in New England, you are going to... Sure.
Bill Belichick put his ego above Brady.
Or maybe he put how they do business.
I totally believe it was an ego deal, but who am I to question it when it has always been proven to work?
Yes.
Sounds like parenting to
like
me.
it didn't. It doesn't matter. Even if they had won the Super Bowl, I don't think they're.
You act like Bill Belichick's
I don't think they're trying to sign Malcolm Butler
he is
to
the
this type
football
of deal.
No, he's not.
Hey, wait. When you played, right? You got to go to school if you want to play, right? Or you got to go to practice if you want to play. And we all know that there are coaches like, man, do I look the other way because Jason Whitlock's my best player? And here's a dude that has not looked the other way. He just hasn't. He hasn't given in on anybody. And it actually makes me think more of Bill Belichick, that in the biggest game of the year, in an incredibly... Anyone could have gone like, man, I need Malcolm Butler in there at halftime. We're getting lit up trying to play a safety at cornerback. But instead, he's stuck. If you change your principles at a moment of that type of pressure, then they weren't principles to begin with.
Brady is on my side, and so you're against Brady on that. Brady and anybody with a brain knows Malcolm Butler should have been out
put out an Instagram that said, I love you. That doesn't mean he's on your side. I mean, literally.
Wait. So social media is exactly what people really think.
No, it's not what they really think. But no, this decision was stupid. And Belichick's still a great coach, but he did something dumb.
Can we wait to find out what he really did, and then you can say whether or not you think it's stupid? Because he didn't play well against Tennessee. He wasn't playing as well.
Belichick doesn't have to explain anything because y'all don't want to question Belichick because of what he did yesterday.
The truth always comes out.
You trust Tennessee more than New England. That's what you're telling me. You trust their judgment more than New England.
You know what Belichick's decisions were for the 97% of the season?
What?
To play Malcolm Butler. I trust that decision. This is the Speak for Yourself podcast. I'm Jason Whitlock. And before the show moves along, I want to tell you today's show is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring, posting your position to job sites, and waiting for the right people to see it? ZipRecruiter knew there was a smarter way, so they built a platform that finds the right job candidates for you. ZipRecruiter learns what you're looking for, identifies people with the right experience, and invites them to apply to your job. These invitations have revolutionized how you find your next hire. In fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. And ZipRecruiter doesn't stop there. They even spotlight the strongest applications you receive so you never miss a great match. The right candidates are out there. ZipRecruiter is how you find them. Businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. Right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/speak. That's ZipRecruiter.com/speak. ZipRecruiter.com/SPEAK. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Now back to the show.
The Packers have taken Aaron Rodgers' advice and gotten busy in free agency. Signing Jimmy Graham, when he's healthy, he's great. Muhammad Wilkerson. Even still, Rodgers didn't seem to love their decision to cut Jordy Nelson, linking a tweet by Rich Eisen praising Nelson and retweeting a cryptic comment from one of his linemen about loyalty. Rodgers also penned an Instagram post to his receiver, writing, quote, Hard to find the right words today to express what 87 means to me. No teammate exemplified what it means to be a Packer quite like him. Definitely a sad day and the toughest part of this business. Whitlock, you think Rodgers bothered by the moves?
Listen, for all we know, not for all we know, Aaron Rodgers understands this business. He's been playing the game for a long time. Jordy Nelson was making too much money for him to be retained by the Packers. He said some nice things over social media. Makes perfect sense. They're best friends. They played together for a long time. Everything he said about Jordy Nelson's true. Jordy Nelson's a great guy. But is Rodgers upset with the Packers about letting him go? I'm not. I see no evidence of that.
I see evidence. Listen, Michael Jordan and the Bulls were not Jeter and the Yankees. Jeter and the Yankees, there was love and admiration. Magic and the Lakers, love and admiration. Michael Jordan and the Bulls, simmering resentment. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, he called them out because they wouldn't retain a quarterback coach. Brady's lost Charlie Weiss, Bill O'Brien, Josh McDaniels, Randy Moss, Wes Welker. You never hear a thing. The minute he goes to Instagram, he goes to Twitter, he goes to local radio, listen, you can't tell me there's not a little simmering resentment. This was what Jordan always felt with the Bulls. You guys were a crappy franchise for 30 years before I got here. I think there's always been a little resentment by Aaron, like, you need to overpay for some guys because, you know, when I leave here, I'm not walking back through that door. You don't sense a little bit of that?
Well, I think he's frustrated not winning Super Bowls, and Tom Brady's, you know,
why isn't he winning
forgotten
them? His defense.
Well, again, and I think a lack of support from the front office, but, you know, don't compare the Bulls to the Green Bay Packers. They call it Title Town for a reason. But we got a Packer sitting here. Let's.
I think he's frustrated at the lack of personnel moves prior up to this point. And so now with Jordy kind of being not the scapegoat, but one that has to be on the outs of it, yes, this is bothersome. You're talking about a guy that he had a relationship that went far beyond a football in the gridiron, a guy that their families were close. I mean, it was a lot more than football when it came to Jordy Nelson and Aaron Rodgers. And then the chemistry that they did have on the football field, it was the best that they had.
Could they pay?
They couldn't pay him. They couldn't pay him like that. But I think the frustration isn't so much that. It's you let it get to this point to where now Jordy has to be the one that has to walk out the door. And it didn't have to be that way if you would have made moves prior to this day. And that's what I think Aaron is frustrated.
Hadn't Jordy slipped? Hadn't his play slipped?
He got injured, but everyone's play slipped. But in the red zone, Jordy was as effective
he had 6 TDs
as
last
anyone.
year with Aaron. You extrapolate it out to all those games that they played together, would have had 19.
No, and look, they had to have an ensemble cast, but he was clearly the third best wide receiver. The two young, I mean, look, Randall Cobb better, and Devontae Adams finally kind of came into his own last year, or actually last 2 years really, he's kind of come into his own. And this was a dollars and cents move. But first of all, like you guys both, with Belichick, you took too seriously what Tom Brady said on social media, and now you did the exact same thing with Aaron Rodgers after poo-pooing what he said about social media. Nobody is what they seem to be. Everybody wants to be the greatest guy ever and the greatest teammate ever on social media. Because the truth is, if they went to Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, can renegotiate his contract, say, hey, Aaron, you want to take $5 million so your boy Jordy can stay? Like, hell no, I'm not doing that. So here's the problem. Everybody in Green Bay has been mad that Mark Murphy wants to build from within, build from within, build from within. So they hire a young guy and they kick Mark Murphy upstairs and they're like, all right, let's shake some things up. Let's go get some contracts. And everybody's all into it. And they're like, yeah, but a couple of these guys have to go. Well, this is no different than the NCAA tournament. Sunday, what happens? Bitch fest. This team should have been in, this team should have been in, this team should have been. You know, the problem is you got to take some teams out. Whoa, right? It's the same problem. We all want change, but no one wants the process of change, and Green Bay's going through the process of change. They're making Aaron uncomfortable. That's okay. He has to be uncomfortable in order to take that next step and get back to a Super Bowl.
If I'd be bothered by anything, Muhammad Wilkerson was a bust.
Well, he peaked. He had a good year in 2015.
And now they're bringing him in. Jimmy Graham, when was his expiration date? 2014? And now they're bringing him in. Be bothered by that. The Jordy Nelson deal, that's a business decision.
Here's the reality. I think there is a kind of a sense we feel bad that Aaron Rodgers has lost some players, right? They won't retain him. I could give you a scroll of what Brady has lost. And we always say, well, Brady plays in a weak division. What, the Lions and the Bears are juggernauts? Well, I mean, listen, Brady's got Belichick. Well, Mike McCarthy has the second-best record in the NFL the last 8 years. Just on offense alone, Brady loses great players regularly. Logan Mankins was his best lineman. Moss is a Hall of Famer. Woodhead, Deion Lewis, Welker, Amendola.
You got a great argument here, but you compared Mike McCarthy to Belichick.
No. I'm just saying it's the second-best record. My point is, this is what everybody goes through.
This is like the credits on the.
Yeah, but a lot of these players that the Patriots lose, they're like plugs. They're like Band-Aids for a period of time. They're never like drafted by the Patriots and long tenure guys. A few of them are, but most of these guys are fill-in guys.
So
Darrelle
you feel
Revis.
bad for Aaron Rodgers?
I don't feel bad for him. I don't feel bad for him. This is the nature of the business.
Right.
And I was in that position where I had to go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't feel bad.
I hate to offer a defense, and Greg, you can speak to this, but the one thing is, if you're not willing to overpay, it's hard to get people to come to Green Bay.
That's a great point.
It's a huge problem that's actually the problem in the NBA, right? Is the reason that Oklahoma City has to trade for a Paul George and trade for a Carmelo Anthony is because you can't get guys to sign there. That's a huge problem. Now, look, what the Patriots are able to do is get guys off the waiver wire, right? Take a shot on a guy who costs you nothing. But yeah, and this is not a good free agent class. So everybody wants to change. There's not great top-level free agents. There aren't great. There's a reason that Muhammad Wilkerson is out on the market in this period of time.
Welcome back. Greg Jennings here, and joined now by the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to Philadelphia. Interesting free agent moves. It appears more and more likely Nick Foles will be the backup of the Eagles next year, despite the fact that some people, mostly Whitlock, have been calling for the Super Bowl MVP to demand a trade or a new contract. And after a crazy day of free agent quarterback signings, it's fair to wonder if he should have, with Foles' average salary looking like peanuts compared to several quarterbacks who cashed in, including clearly inferior players like Josh McCown and Sam Bradford. Whitlock, should Foles be bothered by these big deals?
Absolutely. And it's, you know, God bless him, and it's great being Nicky Foles in Philadelphia and being the toast of the
Folk
town.
hero.
But yeah, at some point, that money that he's passing up by not, as soon as the Super Bowl's over, I've done my job, guys. Appreciate it, but I got to get out of here. Or you guys got to pay me to be the starter here. He should have demanded that. Instead, he's trusted a professional franchise, and I think he's going to get hurt in this situation. I was thinking about this earlier today, and I was like, you seen the movie Get Out? You know, and I think like Doug Peterson is clinking and he's got Nick Foles under some spell, man. I mean, get out. If Nick Foles is watching this, get the hell out of Philadelphia.
Oh, come on.
That was a good one.
That was good.
That was
Tim
good.
Tebow had a 6-game winning streak. Mark Sanchez got to back-to-back AFC championships.
Oh, yeah.
Larry Brown won a Super Bowl MVP. Guys have a good month or a good 3 hours.
Larry
He's a
Brown's
backup.
the only one that made any sense.
Okay,
it was in the Super Bowl, but
Nick
the rest
Foles,
of those guys,
on a great supporting cast, had a great 4 hours. Let's slow down here. He's a backup who had a good month and a great Sunday.
and you'd be satisfied looking at Sam Bradford about to get another $20 million someplace, and you gonna play for 5?
Well, you're assuming that nobody has called Philadelphia. Howie
I'm
Roseman's phone works.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure their demands for what they want to trade for him are astronomical. But if Nick Foles was putting pressure on him, get me the hell out of there, their demands would come down and he'd be more tradable.
Some guys aren't demanders. John Elway forced teams don't draft me. That's not Sam Darnold's personality. Some guys are...
They're talking about 2 first-round draft picks. Who's giving that for Nick Foles? If Nick Foles took their leverage away, get me out of here, I'm not reporting to camp, then they trading for a second-round pick.
Well, that's not his DNA. He's not that kind of kid. Some people, Kobe's aggressive, LeBron's passive-aggressive. That's just their personalities. Oh, come on.
and you make a great point with this, but even with it, I don't think it takes that to manipulate Nick Foles, because I think he's content where he is. Bottom line, if Nick Foles wanted out, he would be pressuring them to make moves, to do something. And I don't think Nick Foles really wants out. I think he enjoys the environment. Money doesn't buy everybody happiness. It buys a lot of things, but not always happiness. And I think Nick Foles is, I shouldn't even use the word content. He appreciates where he is. He appreciates the relationship he has with Carson Wentz, with the head football coach, and the guys in that locker room. And I don't think he's looking at everybody else's dollar amount and becoming unsatisfied with what he is.
They got him.
Yeah, you know why they have him? Because he's been there, Jason. He's been on the other side. Do you remember where he was before he came to Philly? He was in St. Louis with Jeff Fisher, unhappy, nearly quit football. Nick Foles had to be talked out of quitting football by Andy Reid because he was so unhappy. Then he gets traded back to Philadelphia. Perfect spot. They love him. He's the backup to a quarterback who, mind you, was injured last year, was injured in college. I mean, Carson Wentz runs a lot. Maybe he gets hurt again. Foles has a shot. I would rather make good money, never have to buy a cheesesteak again in Philadelphia, than go to Arizona, make a ton of money, and be unhappy on a 5-win team.
Okay, when you're in a bad marriage, it makes you appreciate a good marriage even more. So this guy's bounced around. He's been in bad situations. Then he lands in a perfect situation. Nick is smart. He's like, listen, I had a lot of help. I got a good coach, I got a good O-line, I got a good defense. Maybe he's really smart and realizes, okay, I can go make a fortune in Arizona, but be hated by the media and fans because I'm like a C guy.
Yeah, you're not the savior.
I mean, this, John
You know
Elway.
what breaks up most marriages, Colin?
What?
Money. Arguments over money. And again, so again,
He doesn't want to argue about money.
No, his wife at some point, and people, family, people around him, are going to look at, man, are you crazy? We're playing for $5 million in a game that's this dangerous, that anything can happen, and you could go out and get this money and have generational wealth. You can pass on to your kids. You can do your evangelical work with the church. You can use that money in so many different ways. He's got to go get the money right now, and I think he's blown his window of opportunity. And people, look, if Doug Peterson and those people really cared about him, they would tell him.
Come on,
they
this
would
is the
tell
NFL.
him. He's being exploited. He's too naive.
Look, Carson Wentz, he's still injured. He's recovering. He's in. We don't know if Carson Wentz is going to be under helmet and the starter come the season. Nick Foles is right there. He's in a perfect situation.
Not everybody's chasing
Have you seen the movie
paper.
Get Out?
I have seen it.
You sound like the guys that were talking, yeah, this is good over here. Under this tree.
Get Out was
And
a
who are you?
completely different
Are you
situation.
the friend that he called, the
Yes,
TSA
I'm
agent?
TSA.
Okay. Got it, all right.
Get Out. All right, welcome back. Doug Gottlieb is back. And we're joined now by NBA champion Eddie House. Let's move to college basketball, where John Calipari wasn't happy about Kentucky getting a 5 seed in the tourney, but that's the least of his complaints this week. In a new profile in GQ, the outspoken coach takes aim at the NCAA and its hypocritical attitude about his once maligned one-and-done approach to recruiting, saying, quote, "It began to change because Duke did what we did, and now it's become respectable. I'm happy they did it so I can go about my business and not have to hear the crap about it. You don't hear it anymore. 5 years ago, that's all it was." Cowherd, does Calipari get a bad rap?
No, I mean, I think his reputation is, he's vacated multiple wins in the tournament. Okay, we know that. We know he's a great recruiter. We know that. Good coach, not maybe a Roy Williams.
That's the bad rap. Go ahead.
Okay, but his takeaway is Duke validated it. Well, the Oakland A's kind of...
Moneyball.
Moneyball. They created Moneyball. But it wasn't validated till the Red Sox with big money did it and won a World Series. People went, okay, the whole sport was like, we're in. Yes, Duke's a bigger, more refined brand. So when they went one and done, it was a signal by every coach, this is the way to do it. Kentucky was kind of doing their own thing. And by the way, he hasn't had a ton of championship success with it. When Coach K came in and did it, the Red Sox came in and did it, you're like, okay, this is a team that doesn't have to do it that way. They're doing it and winning. Okay, it did validate it.
My head almost exploded, and I know people in Kentucky, I want to apologize to you. He thinks Duke is a better basketball brand than Kentucky. Significant. I'm not, Krzyzewski's put together a hell of a program, but Kentucky's got a long history. Listen, Duke is favored by all the media. Dick Vitale, love him to death, screams about Duke over and over again. And Duke does everything the right way, and they're the proper school, and everybody's better educated. They're all smarter, and those idiots down south. I don't buy any of that. John Calipari did something that now everybody's mimicking. And I hate people like Gottlieb and McIntyre and everybody. Calipari can't coach. He's been to 6 Final Fours. And I don't care what happened at Memphis, the NCAA rules, whatever, vacate, none of that stuff matters. The guy wins wherever he goes. He attracts great players who go on to be great pros. I don't see a lot of his guys getting into trouble. And so I love Calipari. I think he's underrated, and I do think he gets a bad rap for being more transparent and more honest than everybody else that pretends that, they're snooty and better than everybody else.
Wait, how did I get lumped in with McIntyre?
Because I heard you say that he can't coach.
I never said he can't coach. I don't think he's the best coach. I don't think he's the best.
Look,
Roy Williams won. Like, Roy Williams is not the greatest game coach in the world, right? He subs like a guy who's never played because he's never played. But Roy Williams has a great system, and his system is proven out. I mean, this year their best player's a walk-on. He might get to the Final Four again. So there's different ways of coaching.
Right.
And I think he's awesome for these kids because during their short period of time, at least on the court, he holds them accountable. I did a radio game this year against A&M, and I sat behind the bench, and every time they make a mistake, he's on them, and he's pointing the guy out who makes the mistake, which is what these players do not get in AAU. They do not get at some other schools because coaches are afraid to challenge him. He's fearless. This is the perfect marriage between recruiter, might feel more than a little slimy, but also a good coach and wants to be a mentor.
Vacating wins.
Derrick Rose took the SAT in Detroit. He's from Chicago. Why did he take? Like, we could go back through it. Like
Bobby Knight vacate wins.
But does that have any? Does that guarantee that Calipari has something to do with that?
Well, come on.
I don't care whether he did or not. I see it's a good thing. He gave Derrick Rose an opportunity. Again, I can tell you stories about kids that high schools and stuff have did to give them a second chance to get them on a college campus. That's a positive thing in my view.
Let me finish. I think it's the perfect marriage. I think he was an opportunist, right? And I think Kentucky finally nailed it. They finally nailed it. Tubby Smith's a great guy, but he ain't Kentucky, right? Rick Pitino was. John Calipari is. A guy who knows how to play the game and knows how to get the best out of the kids. And, yeah, they did the one-and-done thing. It's coming back to bite him now because they're a little bit too young, but he has done an incredible 4 Final Fours in 9 years at Kentucky.
He's getting a bad rap for an NBA rule. That's not an NCAA rule. This is an NBA rule. They put that in. The people that we should be pointing our fingers to the GMs, to the execs that are getting guys out of high school before this one-and-done rule was put in and not doing their due diligence and having these busts. Calipari has had 6 out of the 10 guys that's one and done probably didn't even have to go to college. So to me, he's getting a bad rap. And what he does do is he does prepare these guys to be in the NBA. So you got to give him credit for that. He's getting a bad rap for taking advantage of a rule that...
the most talked about coach in college basketball.
But he's getting a bad rap for an NBA rule, though.
He should be as respected as Coach K.
He is. He's in the Hall of Fame.
He should be as respected. No one should have the reaction that Colin had.
He had vacated wins.
But listen, I'll give you one on Coach K. Okay, and Coach K is the iconic basketball coach.
Right.
Yeah. But when he had back surgery and missed, and Pete Gaudette coached the team, and they had a bad record, that record had nothing to do with Coach K. I mean, they all have the things. They all have skeletons sort of in their closet, if you will. I do think that Coach K, being a part of the Duke family, is bigger than just basketball. I do think the sale actually is accurate.
Yeah, we've sold bogus.
I don't think it's bogus. Adam Silver is a Duke alum. You look on TV, all the Duke alums. Do I think Kentucky, though, and John Calipari has garnered respect to the basketball world? Yes. He's in the freaking Hall of Fame, and he is the perfect coach for Kentucky.
I like Coach K. Calipari should be just as respected.
To UCLA, who got stunned by something called St. Bonaventure in last night's play-in game, ending a very disappointing year for Steve Alford's team. The season, of course, started with LiAngelo Ball and a couple of other Bruins getting arrested for shoplifting in China. Players were all suspended. Then LeVar Ball pulled LiAngelo from school to play in Lithuania. UCLA never got back on track. Whitlock, who do you blame for this disappointing season? Steve Alford, the coach, or the Ball family?
I blame the Ball family, to be quite honest with you. LiAngelo Ball screwed this whole season up over in China. And when his credit card got declined and he went to being Mr. Sticky Fingers and those kids followed him behind him, that jacked the whole season, ruined their depth. You know, those other two freshmen could play, and LeAngelo would have been a great practice player for him. It screwed up the entire season.
So you're telling me UCLA's program, they don't even offer St. Bonaventure kids. They have a legit upperclassman 7-footer, a top 5 high school player on the wing, an NBA guard, and they can't beat St. Bonaventure. That's on LeVar Ball.
It's the NCAA tournament. It happens all the time. Upsets happen.
I actually think that LeVar Ball is the greatest gift that Steve Alford could ever have. I mean, look, Lonzo Ball saved his job.
He did.
Saved his job. If you remember, before Lonzo Ball arrived on campus,
saved his job.
No, what? Hold on. Before Lonzo got onto campus, the summer before, they were flying banners. They wanted to fire Steve Alford.
Yep,
and Steve Alford had to give back the last year of his contract just to keep his job. Then they make an NCAA tournament run. And then the LeAngelo thing actually helps us create an excuse for the fact that Steve Alford didn't do a great job.
It's a reason. It's not an excuse.
It's an excuse because if you watch the game last night, they have a lead by 5 points in the last couple minutes.
I watched the game.
And they
made no in-game adjustments
None.
at all. St. Bonaventure's is a man-to-man team all year long.
No, I know.
And then they come out in the zone. They prepare for a man-to-man game.
Yes.
And they came out in the zone and didn't have no answer. You have to have a plan B. You have to have counters. You can't just have Aaron Holiday come up, jack up shots, try to get in the middle of the lane against the big fellas and try to find people.
To me, it's a young team. I've seen teams get caught all season. I've seen teams get caught with their pants down with this.
Coached.
Listen, I agree with you there in that last night.
Yes.
But I've seen teams have this happen to them. I wish more teams would mix in some zone because it happens repeatedly. Teams aren't prepared for it because it's so much harder to have continuity, particularly at these top programs with the players coming in and out like this. It's hard to have kids that are prepared for that.
Let me answer the question.
Go ahead.
Let me answer the question. I think it's ridiculous to think that the Ball family is responsible for this because there was Jalen Hill. There's the Hill family, right? They were in trouble just as well. Cody Riley, that's the Riley family. They're just as well in trouble just like LeAngelo was. I blame it on 2 reasons why they had a disappointing season. The university didn't chaperone these guys and did not educate them on the international laws. Let them know that, hey, man, you can't be out here messing around. You got to have proper chaperones for these kids. You do have. They're still young kids. Not to shoplift, but if you have a chaperone, you're prone not to shoplift. Okay, so I blame the university on that, and then I blame Steve Alford for again not making any adjustments last night. And he expected to have these 3 guys, right? So he prepared to his season with these guys, and they gone, and he made no adjustment. He kept doing the same exact things that he thought he was going to do in the preseason and thought it was going to be able to work in the regular season in conference, and it just wasn't.
But that
that
kind of proves my point. I agree with you, the adjustments last night. I agree with you on switching defenses. Remember, they played a zone in the first half. You had all of halftime to figure out a plan.
Right.
And it wasn't much. They just made some shots and turned over a little less. And St. Bonaventure's not a bad team, okay?
No.
But here's the point you're kind of making for me. Yes, they lost 3 bench players that hurt their depth. If you go back to every time UCLA would lose a game, he'd go like, look, we just don't have any depth. You know, Aaron Holiday turns the basketball over.
Built-in excuse.
He's just tired. We don't have any depth. And it goes back to, and yes, the other 2 families are on some level responsible, but the only reason it's a story is because it's LeVar Ball.
Yeah.
So I actually think this is a gift for Steve Alford because if it wasn't for LeVar Ball, if it wasn't for the shoplifting, people will be paying more attention to just what a disaster.
This is a good point.
They're down a point. He calls timeout, and they come out, and what did they discuss? Dinner plans?
I don't know what they did.
And
that was terrible.
And Aaron Holiday, his junior starting point guard, who should be up for the point guard, he was not in the point guard of the year award, but his first team all-conference, who has 2 brothers who play in the NBA, turns the basketball over for the 10th time in a game.
12. Should have had 12. It was a Holiday.
But his point is a good point, though.
Alford got a mulligan.
The Ball family has saved his job the first time and is a really convenient excuse now.
It's a convenient reason, but I like to say that.
Welcome back. Eddie House is here again, and we're joined now by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Let's move to the association, where the Lakers' surprising late-season surge continued last night. They're playing well, man. Win over the Nuggets, pretty good team after a terrible start to the year. LA is
hit the rim once too.
Listen,
it's
about winning games. They're 8-2 since the All-Star break.
Shot.
They hit the rim when it counts. 4th best in the league. A lot of chatter about the Lakers going after LeBron this offseason. Whitlock, after this recent run of success for the Lakers, should they actually consider passing on LeBron?
The key word here is consider. So just keep that in mind as you listen to me. Consider. Yes, they should consider it. Because again, you're catching LeBron at a little bit when he's moving into the end of his career.
Yeah.
And so that's a 2 or 3 year window. Can you win it right now with LeBron? And you got Golden State and Houston out there. If you have the patience to say, you know what, I like what I'm seeing from Randall and some of these other guys. Let's wait until next year and maybe a Klay Thompson, maybe a Kawhi Leonard. That might be a better long-term play than LeBron James. And then the last thing I'll say, and keep remember, consider, the last thing I'll say is Luke Walton wants to move the ball. LeBron James wants to do what LeBron James wants to do. Does it really fit?
So you're going to choose Julius Randle over LeBron?
No.
You're going to consider it?
Consider patience, yes.
Okay. Half the league is tanking or resting starters. I like what the Lakers are doing, but let's not go crazy on the 8-2. There's a big chunk of teams. San Antonio may become one. They're looking to a lottery. And then you've got multiple teams getting ready for the playoffs, and they're not playing guys big minutes. There are stretches of the regular season that are a little bit of a mirage. I like the Lakers, but they're winning games without even Brandon Ingram. I don't think it's because they're remarkably gifted. Lonzo's not hitting the backboard. Ingram's not playing, and they're beating teams. Some of this is that NBA mirage. There's some tankers. There's some resters. I'd slow down on the winning streak.
You mentioned one key word, consider. You forgot a phrase. For 10 seconds. Okay? There is no way, if you can get LeBron James, you get him. You know, Eddie, championships or even championship runs are not guaranteed. I like the Lakers' young players. They look good. But are any of them Anthony Davis?
No.
No. And even with Anthony Davis, 6 years in the league, 0 playoff wins. Are any of them Giannis Antetokounmpo?
No.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, what's he done? Is he winning? He's been in the league now 5-6 years. When you have a shot, you got to go for it because you never know when you'll get another shot. And if you get LeBron, are you definitely winning a title? No, but you're in the hunt and you're right there and you got as good a shot as just about anybody if you get him and another star. So I got to go for it, man.
I think this is the situation that you have to take care of inside the house first because it's not going to be guaranteed that LeBron's coming. We all know how LeBron is, secret, cryptic, all that stuff. I think the Lakers sell themselves. I don't think Magic has to go to LeBron and say, man, come here. Everybody knows the money that the Lakers got. Everybody knows they're in L.A. Everybody knows Magic's running it, the Buzz family. This is going to be showtime again. So LeBron is going to come if he's going to come. I don't think you have to sell him at all. I think what you need to do is focus on, hey, man, just in case that he doesn't want to come here, I got to take care of this instead of being left with the bag with nothing in it. Like, man, I put all my eggs in one basket for LeBron. He ended up going somewhere else, probably Houston. He ended up going somewhere else, and guess what? Now we scrambling around. We done messed around, lost Julius Randle. Now we got to try to find some peace. So I think you take care of home first, clean up your house, and then go get some furniture.
You know, Chris makes a point here. It used to be you could go to a baseball game, $5. Even a Dodger seat, a regular season, you're talking $100. Man, you're asking fans to pay so much money for tickets. I don't want to be part of the process. I want to be part of LeBron's a Laker. I think the go-for-it attitude, man, I'm LeBron James. You live in Los Angeles. You're always telling me that you love the celebration. If I'm Magic Johnson, it is changing the city. Dodgers now are good. Chip Kelly's at UCLA. You know, the Clippers.
Rams are winning.
Rams are winning. You got to go for it.
The Lakers got equity.
I know, man, but
That's the thing,
you
too,
don't
the
have to
business
sell 'em.
aspect. As you're right, they're the Lakers. They got a great brand.
Off the
but you
court.
put LeBron in
oh
that,
my God.
and it's skyrocketing.
Have you seen the
even
Yankees,
if you don't win a title.
Have you seen the Yankees spring training
Will
numbers?
Chamberlain's rolling over in his grave right now. Y'all acting like LeBron's bigger than Magic, Wilt, Kareem. All right, to the team the Lakers play tonight. The Warriors, who have been struggling since Steph Curry went down with an ankle injury and just found out he'll be out at least 4 more games. Golden State hasn't fared well without Steph this year, and now Klay Thompson will also be sidelined several games with a thumb injury. Cowherd, are they still a lock for the finals?
Yeah, but it's close because Houston's got good bigs. They're going to get home court. And, you know, Klay Thompson, he's missed 13 games. They're under 500. He plays real defense in that backcourt. Can't push him around. He's an underrated player. So when I saw that today, I was like, oh, that's close. Now Houston's going to have the first 2 games in the series, and they definitely have better bigs. I'm
going to be quick because I want to hear Broussard's where he's at on this 30% number, because I think you have to be at 40% right now. I'm at 50%. I think it's a 50-50 call right now on whether Houston takes him out.
No, I'm with you. I hadn't thought about it in percentage. I've said 30%. I'm not mad at 40. I mean, I still think the Warriors are the favorite, but a lock, no way. Look, Clay, that serious, that's the shooting hand. Yep. I'm more concerned, not to belittle Clay, about Steph. This is 4 ankle injuries in 3 months.
Yes.
The second time he injured it, he was shooting around by himself and injured his ankle. This last time, he didn't step on a player's foot. He just came down and sprained the ankle. That's a sign of very weak ankles, which we know was a problem in the past. So without him, remember the last time he was banged up in the playoffs, they ended up not winning the championship in 2016.
Steph is the most important player on that team. He's the guy. He makes more plays than Draymond, than Durant, and Clay. Clay is another important factor because he does defend. He's a two-way player that can stretch the floor. Now you're talking about 2 of your 3-point threats, knockdown shooters, and 1 of your playmakers not being there. It's a level playing field now. Houston has a great opportunity. They have 6, possibly 7 guys that could shoot the 3, and that's when Golden State is healthy. Yeah. They can combat them with 6 to 7. If P.J. Tucker is knocking it down from the corner, they got 6 to 7 guys that can combat what Golden State does and match what they do on the 3-point line. So it's a level playing field, but health is the most important thing. If Steph can get back healthy, Clay can come back in and maybe not shoot as great as he does, but his defense will put them over the top.
I'm going to go back to the conversation we had yesterday, and I'll just say that I've been watching a lot of Houston, and I'm glad you made the point. I just think Houston has the right attitude. They're hungry. Chris Paul knows this is his chance to cement his legacy. He wants to be the Isaiah Thomas of this generation. I just think their attitude is hungrier and better than Golden State, and that could make a difference even if guys are healthy.
Remember, though, Mike D'Antoni has struggled in the playoffs.
Yeah.
His formula, I always say he's the Chip Kelly of basketball. He just mows through people. Then he gets some faces in Ohio State and a little pushback in the trenches. The playoff basketball is played slower, half court matters more, defense matters more. I still think Kerr's worth a game in a series.
Houston's a better defensive team this year than they have been in years before.
Well, their bigs are better for sure.
I love Kerr, but they don't really need Kerr. I mean, Mike Brown wins.
Right.
Luke Walton was undefeated. You know what I mean?
I can send my 11-year-old over there to coach that team.
Exactly.
All right, welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to LeBron James, who had his 14th triple-double of the season last night in a win over the Suns.
That's
after
a
the
gutty
game,
Suns team.
The always humble star found a new way to praise himself.
You just say I'm like fine wine. I get better with age. That's what it says. More possession in my ass.
He's also been saying.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So I'm getting better with age. That's what it's saying.
All right, Cowherd, does LeBron care more about Cabernet or the Cavs?
I think he was laughing. That's a funny LeBron.
No, that was actually very good. Yeah, I think he's being a little self-deprecating, but he's also stating the fact that he is aging rather well.
You know what he is? He's not as gifted athletically. He is more efficient than he's ever been. He's always been a smart player.
Offensively.
Offensively, his efficiency is terrific.
All right, to another guy who loves himself, Baker Mayfield, who had his pro day today and showed up in his signature Nike headband, which sparked some social media chatter, with NFL writer Pete Prisco tweeting, quote, "Next job interview, show up in your headband and see how it goes."
Thank you, Pete.
Cowherd, is this headband a good pro day look for Baker?
Really?
You
know who he looked like?
Who?
Johnny Manziel.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Manziel was 2 nights ago. TMZ caught Johnny Manziel wearing a headband. You thought that was a good look?
It's a no look. It doesn't matter.
If you showed up on this show wearing a headband tomorrow.
If I was doing a pro day workout, I might show up in a headband.
I would walk off the set. I would not do the show with you if you wore a headband.
If I wore cleats, would you be upset?
You're wearing, down there, you're wearing stuff that's weird all the time. You don't want to see what's happening down there.